guys, and welcome to Diabetic 365. And today we have a very special guest, and this is a very special interview of all the interviews that I've done before. We have our guest, the mom Mary, who has three sons. Three sons who have type 1 diabetes, and she's going to share all the experiences from the past decade with her all the three sons. So welcome to the show. Hi Mary, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, BJ?
I'm doing pretty good. So the first question is, tell us about your family history of diabetes. Does any of your in-laws or your mother or father have any kind of type 1 diabetes, or any of your cousins which got passed on to your children?
The first knowledge I had of it was my cousin, who I'm not sure when she was diagnosed, and she passed away, I believe, in her early 20s, but I did know her and was very fond of her. After that, it was my brother who was diagnosed when he was 25, right before he was, actually, I think it was right after he got married. And it was just a few years after that that one of my boys was diagnosed.
Okay. So do you believe in this theory that since one of your family members was also type 1 diabetic, so that led to your three children to be diabetic? And did you anytime go for any kind of the trial net, exemption in your family gene or something like that?
We haven't had any intensive testing. We have had the trial net testing, and my oldest son and my husband and I seem to check out. But there has to be some kind of genetic component to it all. We kind of feel like we just won the lottery. We're the lucky ones, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So tell us your 10 years of experience with this, with your three kids, and when were they first diagnosed?
My second son, Jay, was diagnosed 13 years ago. He was 8 months old at the time, and we started noticing symptoms at least a month before he was diagnosed. He got really skinny, and the heavy diapers and yeast infections and thrush in his mouth that we couldn't get rid of. And then it got to the point where he went into ketoacidosis, and he was throwing up, and he was doing the heavy breathing and got really lethargic, and I brought him to the emergency room, and it was really touch and go. We almost lost him that night, and he was airlifted into the city, and that's pretty much how our diabetic life began.
So you had to make so many adjustments as a family, and what was the biggest one of all?
You know what? There wasn't really a big adjustment. The biggest adjustment was mainly, it sounds awful, but it was in my court, and it was just adjusting to the worry. Because when my second son was diagnosed, I took that surprisingly well. I thought, we can do this. We've done it before. But when my third son was diagnosed, I kind of hit a wall and went through a good year of depression and a lot of crying. And I had to just get through that, phase and acceptance of what was going on, and guilt. What did I do something to bring this on? And it was a hard time, but otherwise we're kind of like just this really tight knit family community, and if anything, diabetes has just brought us closer together.
And just give us a snapshot of what your day is like with three of them.
A typical day starts, at 7 when I wake the boys up, and I check their sugars before they get out of bed. I try to do that for them because I don't want it to be the first thing that I ask them to do in the morning. We have breakfast, and
But
Yeah.
I think you are awake like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, worrying on the
Oh.
bed.
Oh yeah. Well, before that, the nighttime is, it's touch and go. It's we check every night. There isn't a night that we get to sleep. And on a good night, we check at 10 and at 2 and then at 5. And we're good to go. Bad nights every hour, depending on, if there's an illness or what have you, and just do what we have to do. Luckily, I have a great husband who shares a lot of the burden with me of the nighttime checks. He worked nights for many years, so for many years I was alone doing that, but not anymore. So we just do get through the night, and hopefully we're, lucid enough in the morning to count carbs. And, we're not big on weighing food anymore. We're big time swaggers around here, and pretty much the boys have like 4 or 5 breakfasts that they rotate through, and we just know the carb counts. And so breakfast is just pretty much what you got on your plate, give yourself this. Jay, my 13-year-old, he's all on his own now. That's taken a lot off my plate. He counts his own carbs and does his own thing. He's been doing it for almost a year. He's been on his own, and he came back with a great A1C, so we're super proud of him. So then after breakfast and the insulin, they go to school. The boys don't have a school nurse, so the 2 younger boys call me at 10 with their blood sugar numbers and what they want to eat out of their lunch for snacks, and I give them a carb count. Then my youngest calls me before lunch with another blood sugar number. Then the 2 call me after lunch with their blood sugar numbers and what they ate for lunch. So I bolus after they eat, because usually if I bolus before, it's a mess. They eat half of it depends on what's going on at lunch. If they eat half their sandwich and 2 bites of apple and a cookie that Tommy gave them, I just have to swag what they eat for lunch. And then we come home, check again, snack, carbs, dinner, snack, eat carbs, and then depending on the evening, if somebody goes low, we check again. It's just, it's a lot of things.
So, and I remember that you telling me before that your school doesn't have a school nurse, or so in that case you don't have a 504 plan?
We do have a 504.
Oh, you have. So I know when you're when you're sending the 3rd or 4th one to the school, it was okay. But how confident were you when letting your children to go to school without having a school nurse, in your school?
In the beginning?
Well, yeah.
How confident was I in the beginning?
Uh-huh.
No, I wasn't confident. I showed up at the school every day at snack. And luckily my boys are, because of the pump, they're uber capable of even from kindergarten, they could bolus themselves. So it went from them calling me coming to school, to them calling me and just pushing the buttons, when I felt comfortable. But, it stinks, but what are we going to do?
There's nothing much here.
And luckily I stay at home and I don't work, so I can just be a pancreas and take all the calls.
Exactly. So, what is the thing that has changed or taught you as a person by seeing your 3 sons or boys' illness?
I hope it's changed me into a better person. I hope so.
So it has made you stronger?
It's made me stronger. I think more than anything, it's made me, yes, it has given me confidence to speak up for myself and for my children, to be an advocate. And it's made me more empathetic towards other people's plights, not just type 1 diabetics, but when I see someone suffering, especially a child, it touches me, and I can't just turn my back from it, which is easy to do when it doesn't affect you. But yeah, it's definitely changed me, and I think, spiritually too. Exactly. I'm on my knees a lot. So yeah.
So what is the real picture of courage in you, and also what's the secret behind it? Because many people keep asking you this. question many times.
How do I do it? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, what's the secret behind it?
Family, love. It's just my love for the boys, and knowing that the way I project my feelings towards diabetes, it affects the boys. Mm-hmm. So I try to be really laid back about it all. I try not to let it affect me, because back in the day when I did, they saw that and they were taking it personally. Mm-hmm. A really hard lesson for me to learn was Jay. He approached me when he was 10 and he said, "Mom, when I have a high blood sugar, I really feel like I'm letting you down, and I can see the hurt in your eyes, and I'm sorry when I have high blood sugars." And which was ridiculous, because when he was 10, I was the one counting carbs. I was the one bolusing it. What he saw in my eyes was the guilt of me, maybe being, even though I know it's diabetes' fault, but he saw me feeling guilty for that high, and he took it personally. So we had to have a long talk, and that was like a turning point in my life, in all of our lives. Since then, there's no good or bad numbers. When I see a 400, I'm not freaking out. I have my bad days, but we just totally take it all in stride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's very good. So tell us some of the best parenting skills that you need to nurture a diabetic kid.
First and foremost, they're a kid. So our rule since the beginning is, you're expected to adhere to certain rules, and no matter what your blood sugar is, you need to adhere to them. So, if there's a situation where they're acting out in a certain way, I'll put them in the timeout and check their sugar. And if the sugar has something to do with it, we fix it, but they stay in that timeout because, there's no special circumstances to it all. I'm sorry that you feel crappy, and I'm sorry that this is affecting you, but you can't go out, you can't hit your brother, or you can't scream at somebody. You need to take that time to yourself, and just a lot of love, and just a lot of love.
A lot of love. Yeah. So the final question here is, tell us some of the things that you learned hard way as a DMOM. The biggest thing was, like I said, stuffing the worry, and letting them have their freedom. Just kind of, sometimes you just gotta jump in. You just have to close your eyes and just trust that everything's going to be okay. You give them all the tools, and you give them everything they need to be safe, and you just have to hold your breath and hope it happens, because if you're, I did that when Jack was, Jay was little. I would keep him from doing things, and I really regret that, because they need to be kids. They need that freedom. Exactly.
They're going to grow up to be adults in the same world that people without diabetes are going to be in. So. Exactly.
And Meri, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your thoughts and your experiences from this 10 years and also with 3 diabetic kids. Thank you so much, and this means a lot to the diabetic community, and you have a nice day. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.